is Birdy, and in this video I'd like to talk about bringing detail to the drum set. I'd like to do this by introducing you to 3 different grooves that are personal favorites of mine, and while doing so I want to tell you some of the small details and decisions that I put in when playing them. The first groove I'd like to talk about is a tune by James Brown called Cold Sweat. The drummer on this song is Clyde Stubblefield, known as the Funky Drummer. Let me demonstrate for you once. The 2 details I want to talk about with this groove are my rim shot placement and my balance of sounds. First, with rim shot placement, I like to place it pretty close to the center. It's the poppy sound and it's dry and articulate. And the second detail I like to talk about is the balance of sounds. It can become really easy for the ride cymbal to be overbearing and too loud, and we don't want it to get in the way of the interaction between the snare drum and bass drum. That's what makes it funky. That's much less interesting than when we keep the ride cymbal low in the balance and highlight the interaction between these 2 drums. So the next groove is a song by Toto called Rosanna. The drummer on this tune is Jeff Beccaro. The first detail of this groove I want to talk about is the hi-hat sound. There are 2 different sounds we can use when playing the hi-hat: the shaft of the stick and the beat of the stick. I choose to use the shaft of the stick on the downbeat and the beat of the stick on the 3rd partial of the triplet to give it the shuffle feel. The second detail I want to talk about are the grace notes. I like to play these grace notes directly in the center of the drum so that they're really dry and really crisp. And for the rim shot, I pull back a little bit so that the head responds a bit more. The third detail I want to talk about with this groove, which is my favorite part, and that's where the kick and snare drum overlap. It's what happens on the end of the phrase, and you want to make sure to bring emphasis to it. The last groove I want to show you is by Bernard Purdie. It's called the Motown. The first detail I'd like to talk about with this groove is, again, our hi-hat sound. I like to use the shaft on the beginning of each beat of 16th notes to give it emphasis. This gives the groove a laid-back feel. As opposed to if I were to use the shaft of the hi-hat on each 8th note, that has a little bit more forward motion. And the last bit I want to talk about is the snare drum sounds. In this groove, there's an accent, a grace note, and a rim shot. And I like to play the accents pretty close to the center of the drum, the grace notes closer to the edge, so that they have a little bit of sustain, as well as the rim shot. Like this. And the whole thing. These are details that can help you improve your playing, and I hope you can take them into consideration and ensure that you're always making choices behind the sounds and notes that you play. Thanks for watching.